Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Barry, with the Scryguys, and today we're going to be talking about a new commander coming out of Aether Drift, Saheeli Radiant Creator for one Antimer legendary creature, human artificer. Whenever you cast an artificer or an artifact spell, you get one energy. At the beginning of combat in your turn, you may pay 3 energy. When you do, create a token that's a copy of a target permanent you control, except it's a 5/5 artifact creature in addition to its other types, and it has haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So, pretty cool commander. It's one of those commanders which can kind of get out of hand, with the three energy, we can make anything into a 5/5, whether it be land, tokens, like copies of tokens and all that stuff. So it's still pretty narrow, because we have to lean into the energy. If we don't, it kind of doesn't do anything. So this one is gonna be a lot of artifact focus because as I was trying to I wanted to make it like artificer based, but it's just not enough. At least not enough to make it make sense, right? And so, yeah, we are going to be at a $125 budget, which I think is still it's going to be a pretty fun commander to kind of play with because there's a lot of different weird routes that you can take, and it's just you have to be sort of flexible at the table to see where your lines are going to be, right? But yeah, in order to trigger and get as much energy as possible, all of our sections are going to be something plus, like as you can see on the screen right now, ramp plus, because we're going to ramp, but with our commander out, it's going to give us plus the energy benefits. So let's get into it. So I know we have a ton. It feels like we have a lot of ramp, right? But it's because I've omitted the classic, like Nature's Lore, 3 visits, Farseek type of situation. And in return, I just got these three, the mirrors, which are gonna tap for the manas that we need of our colors, and also possibly trigger our commander to get us more energy as we go on. Scampering Surveyor is a lesser Solemn Simulacrum just because, yes, it does give you a basic land or a cave and then put onto the battlefield. Tap for 4 mana, but when it dies, or if it ever dies or goes away, or well, I mean, yeah, it has to die, right? You don't get to draw the card, so that's why. I mean, it's still nice to have like a little bit of redundancy as well. So I just wanted to put it in there because we don't have like the Farseek and the Nature's Lore and all that stuff. Um, but Solemn Simulacrum has to be in here as well because it's just a better version of it. Ethereum Sculptor and Enthusiast are great because we're gonna go ahead and what's it called? Lessen or reduce our artifact spells. So basically, the mirrors and our other 2-drop like artifact stuff could be just free when it gets down to it. And then Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and then the Talismans are going to be more, yeah, it's just going to be our ramp pieces. But we have Soul Transfer and Conversion Apparatus, which is going to be our little ramp plus situation, right? We're going to, the Soul Transfer is going to come in tap, but it's going to give us 3 energy when it enters the battlefield. And we can pay energy to make it produce any type of color if we don't want the colorless. And then Conversion Apparatus is a 3 mana rock, but we can pay 3 into it, get 3 energy, and use it if we need to activate our or trigger our commander's abilities, right? And so that's gonna be like the little plus. I mean, everything about this is gonna be plus because if our commander is out, it's gonna give us artifacts as well. So, yep. Let's go to our card draw plus, which is I'm pretty sure everyone's favorite, right? This section right here is going to be just pretty much just a good, like, toolbox, good stuff type of card draw. We have Thought Monitor because we have about 24 artifacts in here, so this should be just one blue, right? Sky Sander, just more card draw. Joyra, whether like Captain, I feel like it's always essential, pretty much a staple if you're going to be doing any type of in whatever is it colors artifact type of or historic type of thing. You just want more card draw. Overlord of the Flood Pits, as I was goldfishing this, I was like, oh, this is kind of crazy if it stays onto the battlefield, because when it enters the battlefield the first time, go ahead, draw your 2 cards, discard 1, and then when it goes to combat, you make a copy of it with Saheeli. So you draw 2, discard 1, and then you attack with the copy because it has haste on top of being a 5/5. So you have like pretty much a free attack, right? And so for 5 mana, you end up drawing 6 cards. You discard 3. It's kind of nuts. And if you have a way to sort of keep the copies, then that's even better, right? Limbus and Ichor Wellspring are pretty much the same card, but Ichor Wellspring is a little bit better because when it dies, it also draws you a card, unlike Limbus. But Limbus gives you the scry ability, so you can go ahead and smooth out your draws a little bit better. But it's nice to just have them both on here, and if we have our artifact reducers out, they're basically just free cards. Artist's Talent is great. We really don't need to go to the level 2 or 3. It's always nice if you have nothing else to do with your mana, go ahead and do that, but we're really mainly in here for the first one. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. That is going to be pretty important with one of our finisher cards in the deck. And so that Artist's Talent will just go ahead and give us a ton of gas. And in Guardian Project, we do have a fair amount of creatures in here as well, because we have artifact creatures and all that stuff to trigger it. And so just more card draw for us. Here's our little plus. Rogue Refiner is going to give us a card draw and 2 energy. Royal Cartographer is great because it's going to be a landfall ability for us to get energy, but we can tap it, pay 6, and draw 3 cards. It's pretty strong. Tune the Narrative for 1 blue mana, draw a card and get 2 energy. And Wheel of Potential is pretty much just going to be a Wheel of Fortune for us. Not for, you don't have, like, everyone doesn't get forced to do the discard, which kind of sucks. But, just to get us more gas and all that stuff is going to be great. Alright, so we're going to be making a ton of tokens, and so we want to keep those. We don't want to have to sacrifice it all the time. So Adrix and Nev Twin Casters is great. It's like our $5 version of Parallel Lives. It has protection for itself. I'm still sure it's going to eat up removal really fast. Brutaclad is a funny double mana or like token doubler because you have to layer it in a specific way where you trigger this first and then you trigger Saheeli, so then that way when the mirror comes down, it can become a copy of whatever Saheeli did, and it doesn't have that stipulation of having to sacrifice itself. And if we create more treasure, or if we can create more artifact tokens, basically we can go ahead and run away with the game with that. I mean, Brutaclad on its own as a commander as itself is ridiculously strong, right? Esoteric Duplicator is an interesting one. It's kind of mana intensive, but whenever you sacrifice it or another artifact, you can pay 2. If you do at the beginning of the next end step, create a token that's a copy of that artifact, and then you can pay 2 and sacrifice it and draw a card, and then pay 2 to have a copy of it come down. You know what I mean? And so whenever we're making copies of whenever we're making 5/5 artifact creatures for 2 more mana after we sacrifice at the end step, we can pay 2, and then at the next end step we get those again. So a really interesting way. I remember the first time I saw this card getting played, I was like, what's going on? And so yeah, I just thought that was a really cool artifact from the vault thing from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, and I've always been trying to find a place for myself to put this card in, and I think this is probably a really great one. World Waker Helm is a great one too. It's from also like the vault thing from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. If you would create 1 or more artifact tokens, it said create those tokens plus an additional map token. So it's going to give us a map token to go ahead and explore on our turns. But for 1 in the blue, we can tap it, create a token that's a copy of target artifact token you control. So really great. We trigger Saheeli, make the token, and then with this one you can make another token without the stipulation of having to sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. And then Sundial the Infinite is, I think, a must-have for any type of these decks where you have end of at the end step triggers. I know there's like that 5 mana Is It Pirate where you can steal cards from people's hands, steal creatures from people's hands, and then return it at the beginning of the next end step. You have Sundial the Infinite for that. So same here, for us to be able to keep our tokens. It's not extra tokens, but it's letting us keep extra bodies onto the battlefield. So there you go. And then the main focus of this deck is going to be, we need to get energy, right? And so we have cards like Architect of the Untamed, Evolution Change, and the new Nissa World Soul Speaker, which are like have landfall abilities. Evolution Stage doesn't have landfall to get energy, but it allows us to proliferate our energy counters. Architect and Nissa do have landfall abilities where we get energy. The difference is with the Architect of Untamed, we can pay. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Sorry, I wish they just put pay 8 energy to make 6 beast colorless beast artifact tokens. Or with Nissa, we pay 8 and we can cast a permanent spell from our hand onto the permanent spell for free. Not for free, but for 8 energy, right? Instead, so that's really great. The Motherlode Excavator could be really nasty because when it enters the battlefield, it creates energy based on the amount of non-basics an opponent controls. And then whenever you attack, you can pay for destroy a non-basic defending player controls, and creatures that player controls without flying can't block this turn. So both portions of this card is great because it's gonna give us a ton of a ton of energy counters in one go. It's almost like a dockside for energy. And then on the second portion, it's gonna allow us to sort of get rid of problematic lands like Nykthos and Gaia's Cradle and Cabal Coffers, and also makes creatures without flying can't be blocked. So makes it so that creatures without flying can't block for our opponent. So it kind of does a lot, and for 5 minutes, pretty sweet. And then you go ahead and make a copy of it with Saheeli Rai, it just gets even worse, right? Electro Siphon is a nice counterspell for us because it acts as pretty much a mana drain energy version of mana drain, and so that can help us refill our energy. Decoction Module for 2 mana. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, gives us some energy, and then for 4 mana we can bounce a creature back. Is it Genitorium is great because whenever we get energy, we get that many +1, but we can draw a card if we've paid or lost 4 or more energy for the turn. Aetherworks Marvel is another great energy card. Whenever a opponent you control is pinned to the graveyard, you get an energy, and then you can pay 6 energy, look at the top 6, and then cast a spell from them for free. Bespoke Battle Wagon is great. For 4 mana, you could just tap it right away, get 2 energy, or you can pay 2 energy to tap target creature, or pay 3 energy to draw a card, or pay 4 to have it become a creature. Aether Refinery is 4 and 2 red artifact. If you get 1 or more energy, you get twice that many instead. So just a better version of Is It Genitorium, but we can also tap it, pay 1 energy, and then you can make a XX Black Aetherborn creature token, where X is the amount of energy you paid into it. So it can build us bodies, it can double up our energies. It's just a energy producing machine. Amp the Raptor is a great, just like little budget card for 1 in the red. For a strike, when it enters the battlefield, get 2 energy. Then if you cast it from your hand, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast that card by paying an amount of energy equal to its mana cost rather than equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. So yeah, just a great way for us to get like a 2-for-1 spell. If we have, typically in this deck, you should have extra energy lying around, and so you should be able to cast most things for free, just paying the energy, right? All right, we got to save the jewels. So we have a ton of artifacts in here, so we kind of want to possibly, if we especially if we have our artifact reducer creatures out, we can go ahead and redeploy it and then possibly just get a whole bunch of energy, or we could just save ourselves from cards like Farewell or Vandal Blast with these cards. Well, Rebuild will be able to save us from a Farewell. Scrap Mastery will not. But for Rebuild, for 2 in the blue, instant, return all artifacts to their owner's hand, and you can cycle it for 2 if you don't need it. Scrap Mastery is going to be a Living Death version, but just for artifacts. And then Duretti Scrap Savant, great planeswalker, fills up the yard by letting us discard 2 cards and draw that many cards, or -2 sack artifact to return a different artifact from the graveyard to the battlefield. And then if we get to 10, that's really our opponent's fault. But where we get an emblem whenever an artifact is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, return that card to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. So rarely will we ever get there, but it's nice to just be able to have the +2 or the -2 to use when it comes down. and it'll soak up some damage or some removal for us instead of being used on an important creature. And so with that, we need some finishers. And God, I was really racking my brain with this. It just really seemed like it was just supposed to be a commander that's just like good stuff. But it's I like those commanders because it also makes you play cards you probably typically wouldn't. Except for one of these cards, I probably would play in a couple of other decks, but two of the other cards are, I feel like, very specific to energy decks, right? And so let's look at our finishes, right? These two cards on the bottom, this mage and this mirror battle sphere, are cards that I would probably play in a ton of decks. But Aether Revolt and Aether Flux Conduit are, I feel like, are very specific for this deck, right? So let's get a little closer look into it. Aether Revolt for 2 and 2 red enchantment from Modern Horizons 3. Revolt, as long as a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, if it's your source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage plus 2. But the important part is whenever you get one or more energy, Aether Revolt deals that much damage to any target. So we can just go ahead and start pinging down our opponents every time when we get energy. And then if we have activated the Revolt, each energy that we get is dealing a Thunderbolt, or like a Thunderbolt, or like she's Lightning Bolt. Oh my gosh. And if we're able to just keep on getting that, kind of chaining it together, hopefully with the Aether Flux Conduit out, we might be able to close out the game, right? But Aether Flux Conduit is a new card from this pre-con for 6 mana and artifact. Whenever you cast a spell, you get an amount of energy equal to the amount of mana you spent to cast the spell. And then you can tap it, pay 50 energy, draw 7 cards. You may cast any number of spells from your hand without paying their mana cost. And like I said, if we had the Artist's Talent out and we had this out, we can almost be able to churn through a good chunk of our deck. And if we have Aether Revolt out, we're just going and taking care of everything that's on the board and hopefully swinging out or just dealing damage to the face, right? So I love Lofty Dreams, so if I could ever do the Aether Flux Conduit situation, I would probably be a really happy camper. And the Otter Mage that we have here, it's really just we have a bunch of non-creature spells in here, and if we offspring it, we're going to be able to deal a good amount of damage across the board. We could have also done other things in here too, like Reckless Fireweaver probably should be in the deck, but I kind of just wanted to build a really fun energy deck and not really have to focus too much on that. But Mirror Battlesphere is probably going to be our big one. I mean, when it enters the battlefield, it makes 4/4 mirrors. We have a couple of mirror artifact creatures in our regular creature base anyway, and then whenever it attacks, obviously you guys probably already know this, but you tap the amount of mirrors, it gets plus X plus 0, and it deals X damage to player or planeswalker it's attacking, so double the damage. And then so if we with Saheeli, obviously if we're gonna want to make a copy, and then when that copy comes down, it makes 4 more mirrors, and then it's gonna deal possibly 8 damage to the dome, and then if they don't block, it's 8 more. It can get out of hand really quickly. And even if we lose the mirror battle spheres and stuff like that, we still have all the mirror tokens out to be able to hopefully help us close out the game. But also I've also sort of in my recent decks that I've been building, even like the more high powered one, I've kind of started to omit like just regular tutors, like demonic tutors and all that stuff, just because I feel like it's been kind of fun not playing with the tutors, because then the deck feels like different every time I play it, because I'm not just always searching for my win con. But for this one, I was like, let me at least put one, and which is going to be Treasure Mage. We can kind of get us a couple of things in here, but mainly just to get us the Aether Flux Conduit, because I really want to do it. I really want to do it. But yeah, that's basically, besides like regular, like, you know, besides other tutors like land tutors or whatever, this is basically the only land tutor in here. So let me know what you guys think of the deck. Gosh, what are you guys excited about for Aether Drift? Are you guys excited about all of the vehicles? the NASCAR logos? I don't know. I kind of wish they made beer tokens. Like, what's NASCAR without beer? I'm just saying. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you liked about the deck. Let me know what you didn't like about the deck. Yeah, let me know everything. Have a good one, guys. Please like, comment, subscribe. Have a good one.